exciting thing to look out for. The next person that I have to, in fact, I don't think I need to introduce him to the house, but still for the benefit of the audience. Our keynote speaker, Mr. S.V. Nathan. He joins us from Deloitte, India, Senior Director and Chief Talent Officer. A leader, mentor, and an advocate of ethical leadership and growing futures leaders through coaching. He is known to be the light for many of the people who have come into the forum of HR today. I think a lot of people look up to his leadership and learn a lot from him. Nathan leads talent for the Deloitte India firms. Nathan has over 30 years of experience in HR management across diverse industries, including manufacturing, services, telecom, and information technology. He has vast experience in building and leading high-performance teams in both multinational and Indian organizations, developing leaders across levels, and serving as a trusted business advisor focused on transforming talent as a strategic growth enabler. May I kindly request Sir to join us on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind introductions. Our distinguished Minister, Mr. Parameshwar Naik, I'm really very, very touched by the fact that you really made a big effort to come in and join us today. You had your election duty. It takes a long time to travel from one part of the town to the other. You're one person who spoke in 3 languages. I cannot do that. And of course, the most important thing is the show of the 2 main things that you talked about. One, you talked about employment. The second one you talked about is the youth. So, sir, we are indeed very, very privileged to have you here. A round of applause for our honorable minister. So, the art of a keynote speaker is saying nothing briefly. So that's what I'll attempt to do. And so I'm going to talk about just 3 things. First, I want to congratulate the Indian Staffing Federation for their excellent work. A great privilege that you'll be hosting in 2016. A very, very momentous conference, so congratulations to you for that. My mind goes back many years ago. I thought when I was a lot younger that I'm going to change the world, I'm going to do multiple things. 30 years later, the dream has not changed, but I see that the world has really become a much better place. Several challenges that we faced in our younger days, some of them solved, some of them remain. Aristotle famously said, the roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Today, every 3rd person aspires to come in and be in the field which is most touted as the most growing field, which is IT and ITES. We are, I'm told, the world's youngest population, and we will rise by 125 million year over the next decade. We'll possibly need to create 100 million jobs, something that you spoke about, Ritu. And there is this huge stuff about India being the youngest nation. There is a demographic dividend that we can expect. While there is a heavy focus on education and getting engineering degrees, other degrees, one of the things that we are doing is we are producing lots of graduates every year. The National Employability Report of 2014 says that employability is a challenge because only 18% of this pool are really employable. So that's a big shame. I mean, it's about only 1 in 5 can really get employed, although people would get in and have those degrees for sure. Based on the survey, they say that of the 1.2 lakh engineering candidates across the country, 92 lakh programming skills, 71 lakh soft and cognitive skills, 60 lakh domain skills, 74 lakh English-speaking comprehension, and 58 poor analytical and quantitative skills. Now, this is rather depressing, but I'll come to some of the better things that we can do at the moment. Looking at the current state, we see that instead of a demographic dividend, there's almost like a demographic bulge out here. That we have a lot of things that we got to solve, one of which is to get far more fitter. And for these, I believe you've got to do three things. Starting with number one, mill. When I talk about mill, I'm talking about the millennials. The millennials are set to make up about 75% of the workforce in the next 10 years. This large pool of new workers come with a completely different mindset. I should know. I have two millennials in my house, and I know what it is to deal with these millennials. They value flexibility more than anything else. Experts note that this difference between the generations is far more striking in India than in any other part of the world. The lifestyle, the work style of today's youth is undergoing a big change. They seek flexibility of engagement, duration, freedom from workstation, and of course the big thing is around appreciation, gratification driven via the social media et al. So there's a lot of things that are changing. And so, are we aligning our technology, are we aligning our structure, are we aligning our work that is in tune with the new age? These demographic and economic changes provide us with an opportunity so we can take advantage of changing demographics across the world. English-speaking youth, training such a workforce will mean that India can even become a major exporter in the services sector, something that has been alluded to before. India has an interesting mix. Millennials, we have the baby boomers, which are people a lot older. Not to forget, one common link between them, and of course we have another one, which is mothers wanting to come back to work, women wanting to come back to work. Many of them need flexibility today. The big one is, on one hand, we have a lot of people saying we want to work, but as employers, and many of them are in the room today, we are asking ourselves, what is it that we ought to be doing to support this cause? Individuals choose to become temporary staffers to give them the flexibility to manage their life. Unfortunately in India, temp, contract are bad words. Nobody wants to have them on their resume. And this is time for a lot of our HR managers in the room to start to think a little more deeply. There are some life situations that people have, which is the reason why they moved into a temp and they moved into some kind of flexibility. Remember, we have something to do about it. Some organizations are a little more open. They would say 10% of my organization will have flexible staff, which means there is a policy beyond just words. So I talked to you about the mills. Let me talk about skills. Mill, skill. Lack of skilled workforce is the one that is really causing a lot of grief here in India. While the government and public sector have initiated various steps to address the challenges, the National Skills Development Policy cannot just be a policy on paper. We've got to put a lot of things to work. Most developed and industrialized countries such as US and UK, they have a taxonomy. They talk about how this can be converted. Often we find that most of them, while they use the taxonomy, the skill lexicon is still in the government's language, far from making it a reality. So there is a skill development council, there is a lot of work which is being done by the government, but people in the room can make that come alive, because between what is being sought to be done and what has to be done, there is still a big gap. What is it that we can do? One, we can start to proactively engage with the universities and professors and have those vocational teachers come in and work in our organizations. Because once they do that, it's not about the industry and the academics all coming together in forums, but they really got to be doing it at the shop floor. So they will start to engage with us a lot more. Two, how do we collaborate with the education department to drive the syllabus and training? How do you have college level mentoring programs, perhaps even school mentoring programs, because Ritu talked about how we have a humongous number of people leaving school, which is not a very good thing. Lastly, I talked to you about the will. I talked to you about skill. I talked about the will. I'm going to talk about will, which is, as responsible professionals in the room, we are fairly knowledgeable about our internal systems and processes. Is there a way that we can find something that we can tweak it so that we become far more responsible to the larger cause of what's happening here in India? We need to look at the world of possibilities. Your word counts. Each word counts. It's a day of election today. There are a lot of people campaigning. But what I am here to campaign, sir, is that people in this room can make a difference. People in this room, because we are the people who can drive the policies. There is little evidence that India views lack of skilled workforce as a major constraint. Everybody knows that there is a constraint, but we've got to do something about it. I would say our Chief Minister is a person committed to the cause. Why? Our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has promised to deliver jobs and growth through infrastructure investment and skills training. On the occasion of the first World Youth Skills Days on 15th of July, Mr. Modi even launched the ambitious Skill India program and stated that India should become the human resources capital of the world. While this initiative marks the beginning of a mass campaign encouraging youth, it also shows a great need for immediate and focused interventions by various stakeholders. Time and again, we have observed that employees look for candidates who have strong skills, technical, communications, critical, all these things. But along with all of that, I would say, can we be a little more temperate as well? Can we be a little more accommodating? Everybody wants the best. We all understand that. But is there a way that, let's say you put in 5% and say, I'm going to be a little more inclusive, because that inclusion can make a big difference in our lives. We talked about 40,000 rupees as the average salary of people who are in the temp staffing. I would even say that number's got to be much higher. And if you start to include a lot of people who have not been included, and I'm sure that there is a big job in front of all of us. As I conclude, I want to share about the story of Titanic. And you may start to wonder, what has Titanic got to do with this? So many years ago, you know that there was a ship. The ship was the biggest ship that was ever to set sail, but it hit something and it was going to sink. And then they started shooting those flares. It's not very well known that there were 3 ships which were very close to the Titanic. The first ship was a ship called Samson. It was just 7 miles away. But the captain of that ship, he felt, I'm doing some illegal fishing here. If I go to help somebody there, I will be found out. So he quietly faded away. The second ship was California. And what California did was, it was just 14 miles away. And the captain of that ship said, oh, there are just a lot of ice around. I'd have to break through it. It is nighttime. Perhaps I'll look at it in the morning. And he went away. But there was one man, and this one man was Carpathia. That's the name of the ship. The one man on that ship was a captain. He was 58 miles away. He could not even see the flares, but he could see some very mild sense of light in a corner that should not be there. He was traveling south. He changed directions. He went through the waters, saved 705 lives. So between what you have as a big dream of what we wish to do, we have a lot of captains sitting in this room. We have people in this room who can make a big difference. And I believe that there are just 3 things we address. We address the mills, we address the skills, but the one that's going to turn everything is the will of the people in this room. Because till we manage to put the will, skill, and mill in the right mix, we are more likely to kill the much touted demographic dividend. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a job on our hands. I'm sure this conclave is going to be a fantastic one, and I thank each one of you for being present here to take us through what I believe what this very big federation is doing is bringing a lot of people back to something that can make India a very big nation. So on behalf of everybody, thank you for what you do, Ritu, and all the very best for a fantastic conclave. Thank you very much.
To present the memento and book to Mr. Nathan.